Hi, and welcome to Best in Tesla and the new show Overflow, episode number 3. Volkswagen had a bad 2024 with decline in sales, and we can now see why this is hurting their bottom line so badly. And Elon Musk just revealed Grok 3, the newest, smartest AI brain in the world. But we had another huge AI breakthrough, but this one is a bit more scary. And rumors has it that Tesla is ahead of schedule for releasing cheaper models early in Q2. And Tesla's Model S and X is apparently the best in terms of vehicle retention in China. And BYD is ramping up its ambition to become a top player in Europe. All of this and much more in today's episode. Let's dive right in.
Let's put our living stereo stylus in this groove.
Volkswagen had a bad 2024 with decline in sales, and we can see why this is hurting their bottom line so badly. Volkswagen was down in 2024, but since it was only 2.3%, it doesn't sound like much. And people might be wondering why Volkswagen is in such a crisis to close plant and firing people. Well, for most of the answer to that, we have to look at China. But the 2.3% decline in just 1 year is still about 211,000 units they dropped in sales last year. This is more than the entire Xpeng that is on the rise. But the real catastrophe, in my opinion, we see in China, where Volkswagen was once the dominating force and where most of their profits came from. As AJ wrote on X on his analysis of the Volkswagen numbers, geographically China was the biggest driver of decreasing vehicle sales with a loss of 308,000 vehicle sales, down 9.5%. Asia, excluding China, also underperformed, down 17.6%. The Chinese conquered not only their home market but also neighboring countries, which hasn't closed their markets. For the first time in over 10 years, Volkswagen sold less than 3 million vehicles in China, and BEV sales decreased 3.4% to 745,000 units. So Tesla was up 9.5% in China, but Volkswagen was down in BEV sales in China by 9.5%. Funny how we don't hear about that in the mainstream media, but we have been hearing many times over the last couple of years that Tesla had demand problem in China with all the competition that was there. But Tesla had their best year in China in 2024, and the best-selling car of any kind in China in 2024 was the Tesla Model Y, whereas Volkswagen has decreased 9.5% in sales. And we can see their flagship car, the Volkswagen ID.7, sales has basically disappeared. Volkswagen sold 9 ID.7s in January in China. 9. No, ladies and gentlemen, it is not Tesla that has a demand problem in China, it is Volkswagen. But maybe we will see people starting to say it is Elon Musk politics that is hurting Volkswagen sales as well. But as you can see on this chart, the Volkswagen Group's market share in China has basically been cut in half over the past 5 years. And if the trend continues, we should expect Volkswagen to have less than 10% market share in China within the next 4 to 6 quarters, not years, down from almost 22% market share from their peak just 5 years ago. They have lost over 1 million units in sales since 2020 in China alone, the market that used to bring in about 50% of the group's profits. And they have lost almost 30% of those sales in just 5 years. So that is, of course, one of the biggest factors to why Volkswagen is hurting so much. At the same time, we know that Volkswagen is already running with a utility rate at their factories in Germany about 60%. That is already unsustainable. They need to get to at least 70% to be sustainable. But when their sales are declining even a little bit, this becomes more and more problematic for them, as the utility rate of their factories gets worse and worse. Just take Audi. That is also part of the Volkswagen Group and has been the biggest loser in 2024 as Audi decreased 11.8% last year and lost 224,000 in vehicle sales, and why Tesla was able to beat them. as they hardly dropped in sales at all. And then we have to understand that Audi only sold 1.67 million vehicles in 2024 from their 16 factories globally. That is only a little over 100,000 units per factory. So when Audi is down 225,000 units, that is basically 2 whole factories for Audi. That will have a huge impact and make their utility rate even worse. And in China, the Volkswagen Group is down 1 million units over the last 5 years. So they do have the capacity to make over 4 million vehicles, but only makes less than 3, meaning that Volkswagen utility rate in China just got about 25% worse during the last 5 years in China as well. So Volkswagen is already in a pretty bad situation. So every little drop in sales is making a bad situation worse, as the Chinese are kicking them out of China, but also grabbing other markets outside China. As Michael Dunn also wrote on X, the belief that the majority of Chinese cars exports are EVs. Well, in 2024, almost 80% were gasoline-powered vehicles. So China is causing more damage to the legacy automakers than just with EVs. But we will see a big shift in Volkswagen's EV sales in Europe this year for sure, as I talked about many times before. And we can also see this on this chart from AJ, that Volkswagen sales of EVs skyrocketed in 2021 because they needed to get to their emission targets in Europe. And everyone was screaming about how Volkswagen would now catch up to Tesla in no time at all. But the EV growth basically stopped because they were not forced to sell more EVs than that. But now in 2025 they are, as the stricter emission targets are here. So we will see them try to push as many EVs out in Europe as possible, because even though they're still a big player in China in ICE cars, their EVs are not selling well. So they will probably not grow much, if at all, in China in BEV sales in 2025 either. So things are not looking too good for Volkswagen, as their unions won't let them cut what they need to cut to make this bad situation better. So let's see how 2025 goes, but I have a funny feeling it will be another year with more declines in their overall sales. But they will probably be able to spin a nice BEV growth story in Europe. Elon Musk has just revealed Grok 3, and that is supposed to be the smartest AI brain in the world. So Elon and his team of very smart people talked about Grok's feature-enhanced reasoning and mini-models and search capability dubbed DeepSeek, and a big brain feature that leverage significant compute power backed by a massive cluster of 200,000 GPUs. I can definitely recommend you watch the whole presentation. I did put it up on my YouTube channel if you want to check it out. So the narrative here is that the compute power is no longer a bottleneck, and the model's benchmark performance is very impressive. And don't forget, the others still don't know how to make a 100,000 GPU coherent cluster, and XAI is already at 200,000. And Elon did say they will continue to build it out, and it will become 5 times bigger. And they also said that the second 100,000 clusters came up 25% faster. And remember, the first one came up 20 times faster than anyone else has ever done. And XAI improved that with 25%. Yeah, no one is catching up with XAI anymore. And they also explained why XAI not just got their own computer cluster, but built it themselves, because they actually could not get any company to build it fast enough. So if they had any other company build the computer cluster for them, they would forever be behind. So that was the reasoning behind it. But also just the amount of work and thinking that went into making this possible was quite amazing to hear. Just try to listen to Elon here trying to explain it.
Yeah, exactly. So well, we needed a building. We can't build a building, so we must use an existing building. So we looked for basically for factories that had been abandoned, but the factory was in good shape, like the company had gone bankrupt or something. So we found an Electrolux factory in Memphis. That's why it's in Memphis. And it was actually a very nice factory that, for whatever reason, that Electrolux had left. So that gave us shelter for the computers. Then we needed power. We needed at least 120 megawatts at first, but the building only had 15 megawatts. And ultimately, for 200,000 GPUs, we needed a quarter gigawatt. So we initially leased a whole bunch of generators. So we have generators on one side of the building, just one trailer after trailer of generators until we get the utility power to come in. But then we also need cooling. So on the other side of the building, it was just trailer after trailer of cooling. So we leased about a quarter of the mobile cooling capacity of the United States on the other side of the building. Then we needed to get the GPUs all installed, and they're all liquid cooled. So in order to achieve the density necessary, this is a liquid cooled system. So we had to get all the plumbing for the liquid cooling. Nobody had ever done a liquid cooling data center at scale. So this was an incredibly dedicated effort by a very talented team to achieve that outcome. I may think, now it's going to work. Nope. The issue is that the power fluctuations for a GPU cluster are dramatic. So it's like this giant symphony that is taking place. Like imagine having a symphony with 100,000 or 200,000 participants in the symphony, and the whole orchestra will go quiet and loud in 100 milliseconds. And so this caused massive power fluctuations. So then, which then caused the generators to lose their minds, and they weren't expecting this. So to buffer the power, we then used Tesla megapacks to smooth out the power. So the megapacks had to be reprogrammed. So with XAI, working with Tesla, we reprogrammed the megapacks to be able to deal with these dramatic power fluctuations to smooth out the power so that the computers could actually run properly. And that worked. It was quite tricky. But even at that point, you still have to make the computers all communicate effectively. So all the networking had to be solved, and debugging a bazillion network cables, debugging nickel at 4 in the morning. We solved it like
roughly
4:20 a.m.
Yes, I can.
Was when we figured out like there were a whole bunch of issues. One there was like a BIOS mismatch.
Yeah, exactly. The BIOS was not set up correctly.
Yeah.
We had to diff our LSPCI outputs between two different machines. One that was working.
Yeah.
One that was not working. Yeah. Many other things.
I mean, yeah, exactly. This would go on for a long time if we actually listed all the things. But it's like interesting. It's not like we just magically made it happen. You have to break down the problem, just like Grok does for reasoning, into the constituent elements, and then solve each of the constituent elements in order to achieve a coherent training cluster in a period of time that is a small fraction of what anyone else could do it in.
So very impressive work from the XAI team, coming out of basically nowhere, and in 2 years they are now leading the AI race. But not everyone think that Grok 3 is as impressive as they hoped for. But I asked Grok about the presentation, and as it wrote, what's clear is that Grok 3 is designed to push boundaries. It's got 10x the compute power of its predecessors, improved reasoning, and advanced search capabilities. I can confirm I am built to tackle complex queries, analyze diverse content, and search the web or X for real-time info when needed. Thought I'll keep the response grounded in what's available now. Very cool. But no matter what, I really like Grok 2, and it has no doubt sped up my time doing research. It is much easier to find post articles I'm looking for, and also getting a better understanding of the topics, as Grok can help break it down. And it being integrated into X, where I spend a lot of time finding information, just makes it that more useful. And now it has become even better. Can't wait to really put it to the test and see what it can do for me. And the most important thing about Grok is, of course, that it is made to be maximum truth seeking. Unlike large language models like DeepSeek, that is heavily censored by the Chinese government, or ChatGPT, that is trained to be politically correct. So that just makes Grok so much better tool for doing real research. But we had another huge AI breakthrough, not just with Grok 3, but other AIs have emerged. But the most dangerous thing about that AI is that it needs no humans. As Mario shared on X, scientists have unveiled an AI that learns like nature. No labels, no instructions, just raw data. Inspired by gravitational torque, it finds hidden patterns on its own, outperforming existing method. This algorithm, called torque clustering, beats traditional unsupervised learning with 97.7% accuracy. Jesus! Researchers say it could transform fields from medicines to finance by detecting trends humans might miss. Supervised AI relies on humans. This AI doesn't. As researchers push towards true autonomy, the question isn't if AI will think for itself, it's when. So that is both very exciting and very scary at the same time. Based on the information provided in the post by Mario and reading through the article, the torque cluster algorithm has been rigorously tested, achieving a massive 97.7% accuracy in unsupervised learning tasks across 1,000 diverse data sets. This indicates that the technology has moved beyond initial testing phases and has shown promising results in practical applications. However, the transition from testing to real-world deployment involves several steps, including further validation, integration into existing systems, and possibly regulatory approval, especially for sensitive fields like medicine and finance. So while this technology has demonstrated readiness through testing, its full implementation in live environments still require traditional steps to ensure safety, reliability, and ethical considerations are met, as this one thinks for itself. So it is on cusp of being ready to live use, but might still be in the advanced stage of preparation for deployment. So I think this kind of AI should have human oversight, just watching how it learns and what it becomes able to do. Because as it can learn faster and without human inputs, it is a bit more dangerous. And let's squeeze in the last short news topics into this news show. Yes, it's time for the Tesla shorts. The first SpaceX Falcon 9 booster to complete 26 flights and landings. Many congrats. Wow, amazing. Others might get to reusability in 2025, but SpaceX has been doing this for a decade, and this booster has been reflown 26 times. Amazing. And speaking of SpaceX, Eutelsat's share tumbled 17% on Friday as Starlink competition mounts. Eutelsat flagged lower cash flow from its geostationary orbit satellites and forecast lower investment. Eutelsat currently operates 600 satellites, compared to Starlink's over 7,000 active satellites. SpaceX Starlink low-Earth orbit satellites also have less latencies. The world's third biggest satellite operator by revenue expects gross capex to come in between 500 million euros and 600 million euros in 2025, down from its previous guidance of 700 to 800 million. Yeah, SpaceX is not making it easy to compete. And we know that Honda and Nissan are fighting lately over how they should merge, because Honda thinks Nissan should only be a subsidiary to Honda. But we can also see that Honda is not really spending the money they need to catch up in the EV race, especially not compared to someone like Tesla, as AJ wrote on X. Even though Honda sells more than 2x Tesla's vehicle volume and doesn't have anything else except motorbikes, Honda invests less than half of Tesla. Tesla spent 11.3 billion on capex, while Honda only spent 5.1 billion. This tells you what business want to grow and which business is barely holding on. Indeed, and the drama continues between the two automakers, as Honda Motors said it will resume talks with Nissan provided that Nissan CEO Makoto Oshida steps down, the Financial Times reported, citing a person familiar with the discussion. Yeah, this is not looking very good. And we can also see that Polestar was struggling in 2024, as AJ wrote on X. Polestar, which only makes EVs, saw a 15% sales decrease in 2025, and Polestar sales decreased 27% from its peaks. Maybe people should blame Elon's politics on that one as well. But Polestar was also affected by tariffs in Europe and the US, as Polestar are China-made. As of January 2025, Polestar reported an order flow which is 37% ahead of the same time last year. So let's see if they can get some momentum back here in 2025. And in the pure rumor camp here, we have Jimmy on X writing that Tesla is ahead of schedule for releasing cheaper models early in Q2, according to source familiar with the matter. So that is good news and does align with Tesla being a bit ahead with the deliveries of the Model Y that should start this week. But in the beginning, we were told that deliveries would start in May. And Tesla China also shared production of the new Model Y has officially started at Giga Shanghai, deliveries coming soon. And Tesla Chan wrote that Tesla will begin deliveries to Chinese customers next week. So it seems that Tesla is doing very well to get their 2025 promises off the ground. I really think this is going to be an awesome year for Tesla, despite all the noise about Elon's politics. And Jeff put out a nice little reminder when you hear people talking all kind of shit against Tesla and Elon Musk, as Jeff wrote. Reminder: the existence of PowerPoints or EV prototypes 10 years ago was automatically labeled a Tesla killer immediately, no matter the lack of business model or the fact that it was an ugly piece of shit. So fast forward to 2025, still no one is making EVs profitably. So still waiting for those Tesla killers, but now it is automatically that everyone that makes a new humanoid robot that would automatically be a Tesla killer robot. I don't see that happening either. If you want to take a deeper dive into humanoid robots and why Tesla might be changing into something completely different, check out my video from yesterday. And Tesla Chan wrote on X, the Chinese Automotive Dealer Association announced that Tesla Model S and X is the best term of value retention for new energy vehicles in 2024. Model X is the only model with a value retention rate of over 80%. Wow, that's amazing. It is only a 1-year value retention, but still nice to see the good old Tesla Model X and Model S sitting at the top, reflecting the strong demand and the quality engineering of Tesla's vehicles, showcasing Tesla's competitive edge in the global electric vehicle market. And we unfortunately see people vandalizing Tesla, and Tesla owners are threatened. So how can these people vandalize other people's property and threaten people and Elon Musk on their lives and still think they are the good guys? What a twisted worldview they must have. Not the kind of citizens that makes the world a better or safer place for us and our children. And when XAI revealed the Grok 3, Elon also said this.
One would be November of next year. Roughly end of next year, and if all goes well, SpaceX will send Starship rockets to Mars, and with Optimus robots and Grok.
Elon is of course always optimistic, but what if this happens? That would be awesome. Less than 2 years from now, we might be sending a Starship to Mars with Optimus robot with Grok inside. Wild. And with all the talks about AI, if you don't think we are in an AI race, take a look at this chart about total installed NVIDIA computer power. Just 5 years ago, there was hardly any installed, and now we can see how it is just accelerating. Nuts. And China is not kidding around when it comes to building solar and wind generation systems. China is installing a record amount of solar and wind while scaling back once ambitious plans for nuclear power. While Australia is falling behind its renewable installation target, China may meet its end of 2030 target by the end of this month, according to a report. Wow! And China is installing the wind and solar equivalent of 5 large nuclear power stations per week. That is just nuts. Holy cow! 5 large nuclear power stations per week. Insane. And BYD's Europe strategy takes shapes with new plants, hybrid vehicles and upscale brands. BYD is ramping up its ambition to be a top player in Europe with 2 new plants that will start production in 2026 and a combined annual capacity of 500,000 vehicles. Now that is quite a lot. Also, these 500,000 vehicles capacity is separate from the Hungary plant's production capacity, which would begin contributing to BYD's European output before the 2026 plants are operational. So we can probably add another 100,000, 150,000 on top of the 500,000 units, as we don't know the exact number of units the Hungarian factory will be able to produce. But For comparison, someone like Toyota, one of the biggest players, sold about 1.2 million units in Europe in 2024. So BYD is not kidding around and aiming for more than half of Toyota's capacity in Europe by the end of 2026. And as I reported on last week, Elon met with India's Prime Minister, and this week we can see that Tesla has listed a wide variety of jobs in India, potentially showing the company's plan to establish vehicle sales in the country. So it looks like Tesla is still working on getting into Indian vehicle market. That is all we have time for in this news show. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button. It really does help this video out a lot so others can find it on YouTube. And if you did like it, maybe you want to consider hitting that subscribe button, notification bell, so don't miss out on future videos just like this one. And if you're already a subscriber to the channel, thank you so much for the support. But if you want to support the channel even more, remember you can, for as little as $1, become a patron of this channel or become a member of the YouTube channel to get a shout out at some extra perks like early access, ad-free versions of my videos, exclusive videos. So hit the members button or check out Patreon to find out more. And don't forget to follow me on X. I post pretty much all the news as it comes out and a lot more. And check out the merch store to get some merchandise and support the show. It is also possible to support the show without becoming a member or a patron. There is a donation option down below or on my website bestintesla.com. You can also become an executive producer and get news articles, exclusive videos, behind the scenes, and access to all my research charts and spreadsheet also on bestintesla.com, or as simple as hitting the super like button. And thank you for watching. And until next time, take care out there and be nice.